Hey, what's up? Well, I would like to make another unboxing video. Well, I can, while I'm able to talk loud, which is really, I wish I could either get a microphone or, that I would be able to talk like this all the time. Got my jingle bells on. And, oh my gosh, it's hard to believe that we were just so close to Christmas. Oh my gosh, every day it's like so sad that pretty soon it'll be over. And every day it's like I have to um, put it one number lower on my advent calendar of sorts. I keep forgetting to do that. And I'll often have to put it two because I don't remember one day. And so what I want to talk about in this video before I get started is just more of the same about how, I just am so glad that it's going to be Christmas very soon. But I'm not glad that I haven't gotten my hair cut, this close to Christmas. And so it'll unfortunately be too fresh. If I get it done, very soon, I won't have that, grow out period leading up to Christmas. And, I just want to talk about that, about how, I've just really, it's been a crazy year, even crazier than last year, the second year we've lived in this house. And, I wish I could be with my mom permanently. And I like to think that one day I will. But it's just a crazy life that I have. So yeah, just look forward to my unboxing because I have 2 packages that are out for delivery, and hopefully I will not order another thing. It's sad, but I just had to reject so many offers or just not take them on eBay because it's like so many people would love for me to buy their items so that they don't have to keep relisting it at a time when people are least likely to buy anything anywhere, which is right after Christmas. Supposedly the most likely time is leading up to Christmas because they need it as a present or a gift. Then the least likely time, I was told, is right after Christmas when they're out of money, they don't need any more gifts, and a lot of people like my mom are pretty conscious about trying not to have babies in the winter. If people can decide when they want a child, it tends to be in the warmer months, I would hope. That was definitely the case with my mom. And another one of the many things that I keep forgetting to talk about, I'd almost have to make a list of things I want to talk about, but there's just so many subjects that just make me angry. And it all, the common denominator with almost all of them is when people just will not accept the truth on various topics. Various ones, certain ones are very significant to me. And certain other ones, it's like, they're just, other things that have made me mad over the years. But me being red-shirted, the fact that I have a summer birthday, I see it a lot of places that people should redshirt the boys only. And personally, I think that's kind of silly because it's like, once you start doing it for boys, just like everything else, how do you stop people from doing it for girls? You know what I'm saying? And I don't really like the idea because it's like, it's bad enough, when they get to high school, the boys are going to be so much bigger and taller and stronger than the girls, and they'll be able to overpower them. Really, I personally would prefer that they have separate education. Like, I think the world would be a better place if boys and girls had never, ever been mixed together in the school setting. I wish we would have stuck to single-sex schools like we had, forget going back to the 50s. I wish we could go back to the 1800s. And, when it was just all boys or all girls. And it was just, I think that's how you should have segregation, not blacks and whites or, other races and whites. No, it should be all races, but each sex, each biological sex should have a school. And I've always thought that you should not have boys and girls sitting together in class. And, they really, because we wouldn't have all this debate about whether or not they can play on the girls' team if they identify as a girl, if we didn't even have them in the same school. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can either, and I think my education would have been a hell of a lot better, if I would have gone to an all-girls school. I really do. An all-girls school with some type of a uniform. I don't like the pleated skirt idea in the winter, but, I think my life would have been better had I gone to an all-girls school and dressed like the other girls instead of secretly identifying myself as a boy in my head. I think, that the world would be a better place if we just had single-sex schools. So, forget red-shirting the boys. We would just have all boys together, and if they're developmentally behind the girls, well, they can learn at their own pace in the boys' school, and the girls can learn at their own pace in the girls' school. And, they wouldn't be forced into ridiculous sports that they have no interest in, just because the gym has made accommodations for boys that, like that sport, such as basketball and soccer. So, yeah, it's like, so me being redshirted, see what I'm saying about being redshirted? I mean, if you start redshirting the boys, I mean, some girls are going to follow suit because, I mean, it's just a fact. Once people see that something works better for boys, they start doing it with girls. And so, yeah, and I believe that a very similar thing happened with potty training, and that people stopped. At first, they stopped, potty training boys quite as early, and then people didn't train the girls quite as early, and then gradually the age just moved upward. So with redshirting the boys, people are going to do it with the girls too, eventually. And like I was an example of it being done before I didn't even know that term. Like nobody had ever used that term. And I never heard it until a few years ago. And, but redshirting is like when you're born in the summer. It really only works if you're born in the summer. Because if you're born in May or sooner within the school year, well, it's odd because I think the average age of a student really has gone up. Because like in my mom's days, like she has classmates that did not turn 6 in the first grade or 17 their senior year until December. Like right now, people still, you could still be 5.5 in the first grade because you wouldn't have been 4. They didn't have kindergarten, so it's not like they would have been 4.5 in kindergarten, which, they're strict about that now, because 4.5 could mean that a boy is still in a diaper very easily in kindergarten. And so they're very strict about the cutoff today, wherein, if your child is still 4, as of September the 1st over here, and yeah, I think it's either October the 1st here, and it might be September the 1st in Texas. But it's like a very strict cutoff, midnight the 1st of the month. And around here, I think it's October the 1st instead of September. And if your child is still 4 in kindergarten by that point, then they cannot be put in kindergarten. And they're very strict about that, especially with kindergarten, because like I said, they could still be in diapers if they were 4. So what has happened is, just gradually over time, they enforced the cutoff. And it used to be, like I said, kids would graduate high school when they were barely 17 a lot of times, and sometimes they let them skip and they'd be 16 or 15, and it's ridiculous. It's just, and so nowadays it's like they enforce the cutoff. Then what started happening is, now that they enforce the cutoff, it would cause some kids to turn 6 in kindergarten not long after because they missed it. And so, they just had a birthday in August, and so they could be about a year older than a lot of the kids that made the cutoff. And so, because there was such a wide variation in age, well, people started like putting their kids in a year later, and that was recommended to my mom somehow, or she decided to do that with me because of two reasons. Number one, the attention deficit, and I don't have much of an attention span. Another thing is she was in the process of moving and couldn't sell her house. And so I'd have to begin at one school and, change perhaps in the middle of the school year whenever she sold her house. And it was just more complex than she wanted to deal with. And the one that she'll never admit to is she was in no hurry for me to get those frequent colds that she is in denial of me having had, during my kindergarten year. And then when my sister entered kindergarten 8 years later. Yeah, because she wasn't redshirted. She was born in May. And so, we both had a horrible kindergarten year in comparison to the previous year for sure. And really, first grade wasn't quite as bad the following year, but still bad. But yeah, she was in no hurry for the colds to just be happening, you know, at least once a month throughout the school year, which they did. And so she wanted me to also have half day kindergarten. And at the time, Texas had only half day, and where we used to live had whole day. And so she wanted me to be as old as possible and spend as little time as possible in the school. And so the way to do that was to hold me out 1 year, and it put me on track to graduate a few weeks shy of turning 19. And so I never once set foot in a school building ever until I was over 6, and it was only half day. And yes, I still had a lot of colds that year. Like I would miss up to 20 days of school in elementary school, and kindergarten was our worst years. And my sister is in denial of the fact that I was red-shirted. She'd rather believe that I went to kindergarten and had a horrible experience and my mom pulled me out. Well, that's a lie. It's like I tried to tell her, look, you didn't even exist at that time. Why are you speaking of this as though you know that? It's like she wanted that to be the case. She couldn't stand the fact that I got to have another year. Whether it was right to do, wrong to do, whether mom was supposed to be doing that, didn't matter. I got to graduate at almost 19, whereas she had just turned 18 when she graduated because she was born in May and at a different time. See, by the time she got there, they had gone to whole day kindergarten, because it wasn't, for whatever reason, it wasn't making them enough money because they were only getting credit for half as many students somehow. So she had whole day kindergarten, and she missed not twice as many days, but she had an even more like a horrible year for colds. I had a really bad year for colds. Hers was horrible because she went from being a 4-year-old with almost no immunity built up, because I did everything in my power not to get her sick when I was, though sometimes that failed. And she, and of course the last time it failed was unforgettable May of 97, 7th grade, the last cold of the year. And so she went to kindergarten, as only being 5 years old and only having 5 years of, being very protected, whereas I had 6 years of also being protected, but it was also half day, so it wasn't quite as much of an exposure, though it was. There was exposure in that half day, but half as much. And so I missed about 20 days. She missed 32. And, still a horrible year. And that's the part that my mom will not admit to, is the fact that she redshirted me partly to delay the inevitable of me getting frequent colds, which was going to happen anyway. And I just really wish she'd found another way. I wish she would have homeschooled me through the 5th grade and then put me in 6th grade with no elementary experience whatsoever. So that when I told that man that I had never had a cold in my life. I mean, it would have still been untrue, but it would have been closer to the truth. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I had like 4 in my first year of life, and I know for sure I had at least one cold during what I call negative first grade. And I would have had, I mean, I had like at least one during the year that I was 5 and didn't go to kindergarten and was redshirted. I know for sure one, maybe 2 or more, for all I know. I know we had some neighbors in daycare that often got me sick, and that's why my mom hated, daycare so much, because she knew that kids who went to a group setting every day would get colds. And I think that had a lot to do with, she was in no hurry to start with the school germs with me. And of course, with my little sister, she was in no hurry for that, but she already been through it with me. And of course, I was in school, so I was getting some exposure still, like in May of 97. And so I was still bringing home a small amount of germs to my sister, but not as much as she would be getting the following year when she started kindergarten. So anyway, my sister was born in May. And so when you're born in May, the red shirting doesn't work as well because you will turn 19 before you graduate. And so what ends up happening is when you start red shirting kids, it's like, like kindergarten becomes the new first grade. 6 becomes the new 5. That's all that happens. It's just that, it doesn't really change anything. It just means that kids are one grade younger, at the same age over time. And the average age just goes up gradually. Because, I mean, you can't really confine it to one sex. People are going to start doing it. There are going to be girls that are going to be redshirted as well. And I was one of them. And so, yeah, my sister was in denial of that. She wanted to believe that I had a bad experience with a kindergarten that was whole day and my mom pulled me out. And she didn't want to accept that, yes, my mom did get away. However she did it, she did it. By the time that I was put in school, nobody could do anything about the fact that I was a year older. So obviously they just had to start, from wherever I was. And, I'm glad I was redshirted in the way that I get to be 1 year older. And I think, being an honor student, I don't know that I would have been an honor student. I'd have probably been like a C student. If I'd have graduated while still 17, I'd have probably struggled more in school. I don't know. But yeah, I was redshirted. And I'll go on with the unboxing.